Hello my fellow gamers and welcome to my SimCity gameplay improvements video. This is the first of my 3 gameplay improvements videos, and this one is going to cover improvements that can be done upon the game by using elements that are already in the game and just adding them to other structures, other buildings, and creating different things with the elements that are already in the game. First off, I'm going to talk about roads, and the first road that you always hate so much is this one. The regional road network. First improvement that can be made upon this road is adding another lane to it. You could then have another lane entering the city from the right side, and now you would have 3 lanes inside the city and 3 lanes outside the city. On this side you could have the same thing. You could add one more lane right here that would be exiting out of the city, and then again you would have 3 lanes here and 3 lanes here. That's a 50% increase in traffic that can go in and out of your city. I think that's an easy improvement that can be done without too many problems. The second improvement would be adding something that is called a service road before this low density road. This service road is something you know that can be created by buildings such as an oil well. If you plop an oil well, it on its menu has a service road. The service road is only used by the trucks that are servicing these pump jacks. But how about if we could create these service roads in the road menu and then just extend them all over the place. Now imagine that this low density dirt road is actually a service road, and then you could just pull it around the map, and your trucks, instead of going through the traffic through your city, could just use that road. Even if you were to have intersections, you could just put stop signs here, just like you have here, and there wouldn't be too much of an impact on your traffic, because the only thing that would happen is that your truck would sometimes have to stop here and wait for an opening in traffic to go through this intersection. There wouldn't be any traffic lights stopping your regular sims from coming and going onto this street. Let's talk about another improvement. Why can't we build roads that turn into bridges once they hit water and stay like that? Why do we have to use this arc tool for the arc roads and then start on land, go over the water, and then go back to land in order to get bridges? Why should we not be able to start on land, get a bridge, finish there, start again from that bridge, and continue to the land again? Why do we have to use this arc tool in order to achieve something like that? The same could be done with train tracks. Why should we not be able to use a straight road to go onto the water, and then from there use another straight road to go to land? Why do we have to use the arc tool to achieve the same thing as with the roads? To start from land, go over water, and go back to land in order to get bridges. Now let's move on to the zoning tool. One of the most strangest things in this game is how the zoning tool works. You get one size, then you move on, you get another size, then you move on, you get the same size, then you get another size, then you get a smaller size, a bigger size, a smaller size, and so on and so on. Now this isn't such a big problem if this land value is all low land value, but how about if this part here would be medium land value and this part low land value? Then these homes here would be taking up different amounts of space than these homes up here. But what becomes even more difficult to manage is when you add commercial. Commercial buildings are not all the same size as residential buildings on the same density level, or let alone on a different density level. And when you have several density levels combining between each other and several wet levels combining on the same street, you get a nightmare trying to juggle those buildings and having the exact amounts of space used for each building. For example, this space here would be enough space to build a low density medium wealth home, but also that same amount of space is enough space for a medium density low wealth home, but it is also enough space for a low density low wealth shop, but it is also enough space for a low density medium wealth shop. But there are also medium wealth shops that require this much space, but the high wealth shops can only build on this much space and they cannot build on this much space. Now tell me that that isn't a hell of a thing to go through just to make your zones. There should be a key that can control how big your zoning is going to be, and once you build that zone, then a low density low wealth home should not be able to use up a part of that space since it is not big enough to take up the entire space, and you would be sure that this space would be taken up by a larger building, like a low density medium wealth building. Now let's move on to the government. What's up with this town hall and its mods? For example, the Department of Education can only be plopped on roads, but the Department of Finance can be plopped on 3 places onto the city hall itself. Why? I mean, look at this, it even has an entrance on the picture, so why should I not be able to plop it on the street, just like the Department of Education? Or let's look at it the other way around. Why should I not be able to plop this education upgrade onto these 3 spots where I can plop the Department of Finance? Even worse than that are these other departments. Let's say I plop one here. I can now plop this one only on top of it. Why should I not be able to plop another piece that goes like this and make an O out of it? If I could make an O out of it, I could make 4 of these into an O on 2 stories, and I would use up far less space than having to plop them on the other side. How about another improvement? Why should I not be able to plop these buildings onto each side of this dome? I mean, look at the size of them. They could perfectly make an O around this dome, and you could have 3 stories, city hall, without having to use another inch of space around it. Also, another problem with the city hall mods is they cannot go onto each other. For example, if you were to take this finance, you can only plant it here. But why should I not be able to connect it onto these mods? Maybe I don't have any more space to go up here, but I do have space to go on the right or the left. Why should it not be able to go there? Or look how nicely it would fit right here. That would save you a lot of space. Just like this building can fit snugly into this room here, why should this one not be able to fit the same way? Now let's move on to the improvements for the garbage dumps. Let's say you have a garbage dump and you have these service roads. Now you must add dump zones onto these service roads. You cannot add dump zones onto these roads. But what happens if you want to add garbage trucks onto these roads? You cannot add garbage dump on service roads of a garbage dump. Why? How? Seriously, I need to add a real road for them to be able to exit out of their garages and go onto the streets. They cannot use these streets, but they are called service roads. Doesn't that imply that they would be using those streets? Another thing is these dump zones. There should be an option here that says bury the garbage. Why should I not be able to just bury the garbage, create some ground pollution, plant some trees around it, and that ground pollution would go away sooner or later, but I would free up this dump zone and I would be able to use up the 70 tons again. Another thing that could be done is that these garbage incinerators, I could swear to you that when the game started and before the first patch, it said on its tooltip that it produces 5 megawatts of power if it's burning garbage. Why would I not bring that back into the game? Another thing that could be done is you could have something like an advanced dump zone, where you could have a dump zone and then once it is filled, you could say level it and put another dump zone on top of it. What this would do is make the garbage that is already on the old dump zone be creating methane gas, and you could use that gas to create electricity. Why should that not be in the game? Another improvement is about the recycling centers. When you look at it, you see that you have 20 tons of recyclables that you can bring in and put in it at the same time. But when you add mods, would it not be logical that this now went up to 50 tons? I mean, I have 3 mods. Why should not each of these mods be able to take up additional 10 tons of recyclables? Or let's just say we add a mod here, a storage lot for recyclables. What's the problem? Storage lots are already in the game, just make one for recyclables. Or just simply increase the amount of recyclables per each mod. Or not even that, just give us at the start 50 tons of recyclables at the recycling center. Why should these things be empty during the night just because when I have 2 recycling centers, because I cannot fit all the recyclables onto one recycling center, when they are picked up, and I need 2 recycling centers just to be able to place them. And then during the night, these mods are just going to be standing there empty, doing nothing, because they have used up all the recyclables, because only 20 tons can fit in here. And now you are paying the expenses for buildings that are not doing anything during half a day. Or let's now say we have those storage lots. Why should I not be able to just sell off my recyclables to the region? The region should be able to send a truck. I could just say use locally or export, and I could export recyclables, send them with the truck that would be coming in from the region. I would get, let's say, 5,000 sim allowance for every 10 tons of recyclables. So I wouldn't even have to plop these huge mods that are taking up so much space. I could just have a recycling center that's picking up recyclables and selling them off. The next gameplay improvement is about education. As you know, a grade school can only go 2 stories high. But why should it not be able to go 3 stories high or 4 stories high? Why should I not be able to use more school buses? Why limit ourselves at 2 stories? Okay, so you say we are limiting ourselves to 2 stories because there is such a thing as a high school, which can go to 1, 2, 3, 4 stories high. But why should I not be able to do that on the grade school as well? Maybe I like the grade school more. Another thing is, with the high school, you have these high school buses that can be sent out to the region to pick up kids in other cities. So why should I not be able to have something just like the trade port has the ability to say I want to use locally, import or export? How about we give the same ability to the high school, and you can say I want to only import kids from the region and educate them. Or I want to use locally and only educate kids in my... And since these school buses act almost the same way as the delivery trucks from the region, you could that way stop all other school buses trying to send you kids, or stop your school buses from going into other cities and not picking up kids in your city. Would that not simplify things for using a high school? My next gameplay improvement is about parks. When we have a park, it gives off an area of influence, and it increases the land value around this park. Now, a medium park that has nothing else to intersect with only gives you low land value. If you mod it with another park, you again only get low land value. But if we look at the high wealth parks, now it is creating low land value, and if it connects with another building that gives off land value, it creates medium. But what happens if you upgrade a high wealth park with another park? It creates high land value. Now tell me, why is a high wealth park, when it is modded with another park, creating higher land value, while a medium wealth park, when modded with a medium wealth park, does not, and still only gives off low land value? Another gameplay improvement would be if we could find a way to spread this land value in a much better way than these circles. Because tell me something, how many of you build circular cities and how many of you use square grids? I'm pretty sure that the percentages are quite different. So most of us will use grids, and having parks that give off land value that is a circle, that pretty much can give you a headache. So why not combine this land value with another element that's already in the game? That element is tech value. How is tech value from a university or a college spread out through the city? It is spread out through the road network. So if that can be used to go through the roads and spread the tech value, why should we not be able to do the same with parks? Why should the parks, instead of creating these circular land values, why should they not give off the same thing that the university and the community college do with the tech level? They should increase the land value that is going through these streets. So for example, we could leave this area of effect looking like this, but disable its actual effect and just leave it as visual, while having something like a path that goes from this park into the street and then goes, let's say, to this intersection, or let's say it's a dark green line that comes up right here where the highland value influence ends. But instead of it being circular like this, where this edge would not be covered, this part would be covered, this edge would not be covered, how about any building that it has connection to this road, wherever you zone it, whether it be here or here, they would all become high wealth buildings. You could do the same on this side. And then, for example, if you're placing a park that has this large area of influence on this street, it could have its influence go to the intersections. But if you want to go past those intersections, you just upgrade this park with, let's say, an additional park. Let's say if you upgrade it with the same size park, you only get a 50% increase. So you would go up to here. But if you had upgraded with a bigger park, let's say this one, then you would get a 75% increase, and you would get up to about here and up to about here. But if you had used a smaller park, you would only get something like 25% increase, and you would get up to here and up to here. And that way you could have a far easier way of controlling just which streets are having which land value. Now let's move on to improvements that can be done onto specialization. For example, there's always this problem with the mines, where you upgrade it with these shafts, and let's say you have 4 shafts, but your total capacity is still 20 tons. When you build it a new one, it's 20 tons. When you have 4 upgrades, it's still 20 tons. But doesn't the logic say if you're having more of these shafts, you should have more capacity to place the coal that you're extracting? So why shouldn't you get 10 more tons or 20 or 30 more tons each time you get a shaft? It doesn't really have to be here. Or let's say we just add a mod and say a storage lot for coal, and you then add a storage lot here, and then if this capacity is filled, it goes into the storage lot. And that way, if your traffic is creating problems for you, this thing won't stop working just because it's full of coal. It's gonna have a storage lot where it can put that coal for the moment and bring up new coal. The same thing could be done with the oil wells, and you could have a storage lot for oil, or simply every pumping jack you add would be adding 500 or 1,000 barrels of crude oil more that can be placed onto this oil well. There is a similar problem with the oil refineries, just like there is with the town hall. Some of these mods cannot be upgraded onto their sites, for example. Now look at this, I'm out of space, but the only way I can go is if I were to upgrade up here. Now why should I just not be able to upgrade another mod that comes up from this mod? I mean, what would be the problem of having this mod go up, down from this mod? Or having another fuel distillation unit just go from any one of these mods? Why would I have to waste space going up here? A similar problem is created by the smelting factory. If you plop it and you wanna add an alloy, you can either go onto this left side or up here. But if you wanna go, for example, on the left side, because just look how much space there is on the left, no, you can't. You can only go onto this side and keep going this way. Isn't that like a huge waste of space in a game where space is seriously at a premium? Another issue with the game that I have, and another improvement that could be made, is about these slick casinos and the elegant casinos, or even just the gambling houses, where you have this ability to add rooms. Rooms for which you have to pay an upkeep, but the tourists that are going to use these rooms don't have to pay anything. The same goes for any number of these casinos. You have to actually pay for these rooms, but the tourists that are going to use them do not have to pay anything. How does that make any sense? Why should I be paying expenses for these extra rooms that are going to be used by my tourists who are not going to pay a single simoleon for these rooms? Tourists should be made to pay for these rooms. And if they do not like to pay for these rooms, well, I can always zone for hotels. But what happens when I zone for hotels? Well, I get shops. Oh wait, but I cannot zone only for hotels, I can only zone for commercial. And the game itself can decide whether it wants to give me shops or hotels. Well, how about this? Just like I said that we could use the tech level can go from the university and the college onto the streets. And like I said that the parks should use the same system. Let's say the landmarks and the casinos use exactly the same system. When you place an elegant casinos, it should go through the roads, and then every road that has a connection to the elegant casinos in a certain area of effect should be forced to build hotels. So now that I have zoned commercial onto this street, they should give off something similar to a tech level that goes through these streets, and instead of shops being created on these streets, they would be created as hotels because of that. Or let's just simply create two different commercial zone tools, one that only builds shops and the other one that only builds hotels. Some other general improvements are about how far sims want to walk. For example, you should know that a sim will walk from here only till about here. This is the maximum distance that he would like to walk. This is how the game was designed. So why should sims not be able to walk far more than this? Let's say they can walk all the way over here. I mean, what is this? This is a 10-minute walk to walk from here to come up to here. I mean, what kind of sims live in these simulated cities that can't walk more than 10 homes? With the additional distance that sims could walk, we would have far less traffic because far fewer sims would be driving, and I think it is quite an easy fix for a traffic problem in any city to just have more sims walking. Another gameplay improvement is about garages. Now, if you were to plop a bus depot, you will notice that you can place these garages right here. But the buses are gonna be coming out from this street, which is part of this building, and they're gonna be using the same exit. So you could have up to 20 buses using the same exit. Now tell me something, why isn't that so with a fire station? When you have a fire station and you wanna mod it, each one of these is a single fire truck. Now each one of these fire trucks needs his own garage. So why should there not be like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 fire trucks that can come out from one of these garages? The same thing could be said about the clinic and its ambulance bay. What stops you from having 2 ambulances go into the same bay? So why is it then possible for the police and the shuttle buses to have only one of these inner streets onto which you can place a whole bunch of cars and they're all gonna use the same streets, while on the fire station and on the clinic you have these bays or these garages which all need their own exits to the streets and are just taking up far too much valuable space. This would be all the gameplay improvements that I could think of in a short time that can be achieved by using elements that are already in the game and just repurposing them for other things and other usages, or the same usage but just a little bit differently. I'll be shortly making another video about improvements that can be made to the game by using elements that are already in the game but just changing them a little bit. And my third video will be about improvements that can be done to the game but with something totally new implemented. So thank you for watching. Please continue the discussion and share your own ideas, which are probably far superior than what we have right now in the game. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned on my channel for more.